Welcome to Syndicated Nightmares, where each week we take a deep dive into an episode of Freddy's Nightmares based on the Nightmare on Elm Street film series. This week, hosts Dave and Michelle talk about Season 2, Episode 6, Lucky Stiff, which aired on November 6th, 1989. Directed by William Malone and written by David Braff. Plot summary is: a recent widow comes to the realization that her late husband purchased a winning lottery ticket, so she goes to great lengths to recover it and to keep the winnings for herself. Meanwhile, a gravedigger resorts to blackmail to land the woman of his dreams, which is, that's kind of a spoiler.
Wow, they just spoiled everything in that one.
Right. I'm glad I didn't read that before I watched it.
This episode is part of the notorious VHS collection that only had a few of the Freddy's Nightmares on there. Like it had Killer Instinct.
Oh, that was a VHS one?
Mm-hmm. I think that's why that's one of the popular ones. So it was No More Mr. Nice Guy, Killer Instincts, and Lucky Stiff. And I think It's My Party and You'll Die If I Want You To.
Oh, and also I think Freddy's Tricks and Treats, the
that's right.
Mariska Hargitay one. Yeah, I think there were 5 total.
Yeah. So, this is part of the Notorious 5.
But I was wondering, when I watched it, though, I was wondering why out of all episodes they would pick this one for that.
Well, I think because it has Squiggy in it from Laverne and Shirley. And he's a big name. Yeah.
Yes. That's probably it, yeah. Marketing to the Squiggy fans.
Yeah. Yeah, so Squiggy is in this. He's the lead guy in the first half, and it starts off with Squiggy, who his character name is Lenny, which I thought was funny. So Lenny is listening on the radio to the winning lottery numbers, and the numbers are 6, 14, 19, 88. He's waiting to hear those numbers because those are his lucky numbers. And I looked up like what could have happened on 6, 14, 19, 88, just in case the writer threw in something like fun. And nothing nightmare related really happened in June 1988. Nightmare 4 came out in April 1988, but that's it.
Well, maybe maybe that's like when the writer's kid was born.
Yeah, like maybe. Maybe. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and his wife is Mary Crosby, who is Bing Crosby's daughter, and she is most famous for being on Dallas as the character who shot JR. I thought it was interesting that her character's name was Greta because this was the same year that Nightmare 5 came out, and that's not really a common name. But I'm wondering like why they would choose a relatively obscure name that was also in the movie that had just come out.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they were trying like desperately to throw in any type of like winks and nods to the film series in order to like get people more interested in the show, you know? Who knows? Yeah. Okay, so anyway, Lenny is listening for the winning lottery numbers, and lucky enough they announce them, and he has the winning lottery ticket, and he's so excited and he's jumping for joy. And then it turns out it was just all a daydream. And his daydream gets broken up by Greta throwing plates at him for wasting his money on buying lottery tickets because Lenny doesn't have a job right now. He's been unemployed for like 6 months. And Greta is very upset that Lenny is wasting his money on lottery tickets.
And he's waiting on some sort of inheritance, but it's tied up in litigation.
Yeah, which I wonder what kind of inheritance it was going to be. Where did it come from? Was it his parents? Was it a long lost uncle? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and who was contesting this inheritance? Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I wrote that down because he said it, but it doesn't really factor into the plot later.
No, not at all. Greta is upset because he's like wasting all his money on the lottery, and she like is implying that she's about to leave him, and then he comes back with her with, if I lost you, I couldn't go on. Promise me you'll never leave me. And that's such like a low manipulation move. Basically say that if you leave me, my life is over and I will probably kill myself. So that just shows like what their relationship is, and it's probably not a very healthy marriage.
she seemed kind of miserable.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Freddy, and he's like playing with dolls and talking about young lovers, although they're not
like Barbie and Ken. They're like baby dolls.
Right. And also the actors aren't really young lovers. They're probably like at least late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah. Yeah, so
but I kind of liked he like throws them up in the air and shreds them, and all the shreds come raining down around him.
So then it goes back to the story, and we see Greta is home, and she gets a knock on the door, and she opens it, and it's the Acme plumber guy. He stops by, and it's a very like Fabio entrance where he's just so like handsome and sexy, and they just can't help but embrace one another because they're just so in love and so attracted to one another. And so it's clear that they're having an affair. And the plumber guy, his name is Hank, and turns out that Greta was supposed to tell Lenny that either A, she was having an affair, or just end things. I'm not sure like how much she was supposed to tell him what was going on.
Right.
But she was definitely supposed to end things with him.
Right. I guess just that she's leaving him for Hank.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we should give them points for not calling it Springwood Plumbing.
That's very true. Yeah, so they would. Yeah. So apparently Hank also works with Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner because they are using Acme products. Okay.
Yeah. Greta and Hank are in bed, and she hears some sort of noise coming from the closet, and she opens it, and it's Lenny just covered in blood, and he's holding his heart in his hand. And he says, "You broke my heart," and there's just blood squirting everywhere, and then he dies.
She wakes up in bed, and it turns out that was all a dream, and Hank is frustrated because like she was talking in her sleep about Lenny, and it's obviously her guilty conscience is coming through. And so he basically gives her the ultimatum that, hey, either you end things with him or you end things with me, like one or the other. And which I think that's fair. I mean, he knew what he was getting into when he started this affair, but also like, stop playing games, Greta. If you're telling Hank that you're going to end things with Lenny, then like end them. Just move on. Yeah.
Decide one way or the other. Yeah, and then but I think they're still in bed when she gets the phone call, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, she gets the phone call that Lenny has died from a massive heart attack. Which weirds her out because he doesn't have a history of heart problems, and she thinks that he must have somehow known that she was having an affair, and that's what literally broke his heart.
Yeah, and that her dream was some type of premonition that he had found out, and that's why he died, or holding his heart, whatever. Yeah. So yeah. Greta blames herself, and then they go to the hospital, I guess, to like sign paperwork or something. I'm not really sure what she went to the hospital for. But Hank is all like freaked out because Greta is having a guilty conscious moment, and so Hank wants to take a break, just to let things cool down, but Greta begs him to stay, and so he's like, well, there better be a very quick funeral, and we're going to get married like right after. And that's pretty much what happens.
Yeah. And she has this funeral nightmare where she's the only one there. And she's like, he's in the open casket and he comes alive, and he's like, here, let me give you my my ring and you can use it with Hank. And he tries to pull it off, and his finger comes off with it. And then what I thought was really funny, like Hank comes in to sort of end the nightmare, but she's still holding the finger with the ring on it, and he just pulls the ring off and tosses the finger back.
Yeah.
Like he's he's just so matter of fact about it.
Yeah. So Greta and Hank get married, and Greta envisions that Lenny is the priest who's giving the ceremony. So she's just like hallucinating all over the place, and it Lenny really isn't the priest, but she thinks that he is, and like keeps going in and out. But they're finally married, and then it does like a little fast forward to a month later into their marriage, and it's very apparent that all the love and passion is gone from their little relationship.
Yeah, Hank doesn't have a job, or
yeah, he no longer has a job, and he just like hangs out in bed all day, air guitaring all his troubles away. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Oh, I have in my notes he blew the insurance money at the track. So she did get the insurance money they were waiting for, and then he gambled it away.
I assumed that was just his life insurance. It really wasn't the inheritance money. It was just his normal life insurance.
Oh, good point. They did reference life insurance.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, anyway, they're broke.
Yeah, totally broke.
And and he doesn't clean or pick up anything, and just, wants her to bring him beers while he, plays air guitar on the bed.
Yeah. So then Greta is downstairs in the kitchen washing dishes, and Hank comes downstairs, and he's like, trying to have sexy time, and she's just like, no, I'm really upset with you. Like, you need to start cleaning up after yourself. And the radio is on in the background, and the announcer is talking about like, first, like weird off the wall things like the dangers of barbecuing outside, and then he starts talking about how the lotto from last month, the winner never claimed the ticket, so, or never claimed the money, so it's the winning lotto, which was like $20 million, something like that, is still unclaimed, and the person has until midnight of that night to turn in the winning ticket, or it's just going to be absorbed into the next lottery.
But yeah, she realizes it's the lucky numbers, and that Lenny must have bought that ticket, and it must be hidden somewhere, or stashed somewhere.
His lucky numbers, it was 6/14/1988, and she said that was the day that they got married. But this episode aired in November 1989. So if they're on the same timeline as us, they've only been married for like a year and a half, and they're already like miserable.
Yeah. Well, he went 6 months without a job, so I guess that can cause,
that's true.
Trouble in a relationship.
Yeah. My unsolicited advice to anyone before they get married is be with that person when they are unemployed and when they go through some type of death in their family. Like, go through those two things before you get married, and I think you will be all right, and you'll know exactly if you can handle for better or for worse.
Right.
Yeah. That's my unsolicited advice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think people should, be together a while before getting married. Or at least that.
Yeah.
Gives that. I mean, it can be successful with a short engagement, but it helps to get to know the person really well.
Yeah, Greta figures out that Lenny would have had the winning lottery ticket because those were his lucky numbers, and Hank's all like, well, where's the ticket? And they start like ransacking the house looking for this ticket, and then Greta figures out that Lenny was wearing a suit the day that he died, and the ticket is probably in the suit pocket, and he wore the suit to his funeral, so he's buried in the suit along with the ticket. So they get the great idea of, let's just go dig them up.
Yeah, and they go to the tomb, and it's just, I don't know, like what you call, like it's in the mausoleum, and it's like the above ground casket.
Yeah.
Which always makes me think of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because it's what Spike slept in.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's cool.
But I don't know what you call that though.
It's like it's in a mausoleum, and then it's just an above ground like coffin, in like this in this tomb kind of sealed thing. And I looked up just for fun how much a mausoleum costs, and the walk-in kind that they were in it costs anywhere from $120,000 to $580,000. Now,
Oh my
granted,
God.
that's like 2019 money, so I don't know what it
Mm.
was in 1989, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty safe to say that's where all of Lenny's money went to. We're paying for
Right.
that mausoleum.
Could it have been like a family mausoleum and there were other bodies in
Oh,
there?
yeah, that's a good point. It could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense than
Mm.
just him.
I think they usually have multiple people in there.
Yeah, yeah, it is for a
I
whole
could be
family.
wrong. But, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, she opens it up like really easily.
hmm
Um, and then yeah, she grabs the ticket, but then Lenny sort of wakes up and grabs her, and then Hank comes in and grabs the ticket from her, and then she wakes up in the car, and they haven't gone into the mausoleum yet.
Yeah, because there's a graveyard worker outside, and it's like pitch black outside, but he's still
Mm.
digging away, or I guess putting fresh dirt on a grave. And so when he finishes up, he goes to his car and leaves for the night, and then that's when they break into the mausoleum.
So before they go in, Hank says half is mine, because it's community property because they're married, which is it's true, right? If they won 20 million in the lottery and then subsequently got divorced, he could claim half of that because they were
Um,
married when she got it, right?
I believe so, unless she could fight that she bought the ticket before they were married.
Oh,
So she might be able to
yeah.
argue that, but I think it would still go in his favor because they didn't mention any type of prenuptial agreement. So
Hmm.
all their assets would be joined.
And doesn't a prenuptial agreement only cover what you bring in? Oh, but you're saying if the counted as her having it before,
Mm-hmm.
it would still be his. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say she's screwed because she would still get 10 million even if he took half of it.
Yeah, that's true.
But
But
she's not happy about that.
yeah, no. Would you rather have 10 million or 20 million?
Right. Exactly.
So so they very easily lift the lid off of whatever thing that he's in, and the coffin lid, and Hank just like jumps right on in to the coffin with Lenny, and Lenny's like, he's all white and his skin is peeling, but he hasn't like decayed or anything. But what I thought
Hmm.
was funny is that there are actual worms in the coffin with him, and I just
Right.
didn't understand why there were worms, because he's above ground in a sealed
Hmm.
tomb in a mausoleum. Like,
Right.
that's a lot of hoop jumping for those worms.
Yeah, he's surrounded by concrete.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was a cool visual though. Like
Oh, yeah.
like Hank jumps right in and like pulls out a handful of worms.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of while he's digging around in the casket, Greta realizes that Lenny put the ticket in the cookie jar, so it's not on him at all. It's at home.
Yeah, at home in the cookie jar.
So she not is it with the shovel she hits Hank or with the
I thought it was
flashlight?
the
She hit,
flashlight. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, right. They don't need a shovel. Um, yeah, she hits Hank out with the flashlight. He falls in, and then she pulls the thing on top of him. But if it were, I don't. The
I
whole
mean,
logistics of that.
it's supposed to be like what, 7 feet by 3 feet wide of like pure concrete, and
Right.
she's just lifting it like she's freaking Thor or something, like,
Right.
with complete
And if she
ease.
can lift it that easily, he should be able to, push it up from inside.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, so she basically buries Hank alive inside Lenny's coffin, and she goes
Mhm.
home and she goes straight to the cookie jar and reaches in, and lo and behold, here's this winning lottery ticket, which this is where I'm going to stop and call bullshit, because there is no way anyone in the world would go 1 month without putting their hand in the cookie jar. Okay. I'm just
That's true.
yeah.
Right.
Unless it was like empty.
Right. but at some point somebody would it be like, oh, I wonder if there are any cookies in here. Like it wouldn't just be sitting out with nobody ever looking in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So at this point in the episode is when they lost me.
Right.
Nope.
It's like that episode last season where the mom hides the adoption certificate, but like behind the oatmeal in the kitchen. Like,
right, yeah.
People in Springwood are not good at hiding things.
No, they aren't. So Greta, with the winning lottery ticket in her hand that probably smells like chocolate chip cookies, she calls the state lotto, and she's like, boy, you'll never believe what I just found. And I really don't think that the receptionist at the state lotto organization or whatever it is, at the state lotto department is really like going to be happy that she found this ticket,
right. Yeah, secretary probably doesn't really care one way or the other. It's probably like, I've had a long day and I just want to go home, get to the point.
Yeah, really. So obviously Greta is very self-centered because she just thinks that everyone is so excited that she found this lottery ticket. So anyway, yeah. So then we cut to Freddy in his area, and he starts talking about the cookie jar because he has a cookie jar in front of him. See, even Freddy reaches in the cookie jar. So he reaches into the cookie jar, and instead of pulling out a cookie or the winning lottery ticket, he pulls out a heart and begins eating that.
Yeah, he says nothing satisfies my sweet tooth like a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was cute. Yeah, and then so we have like a quick nightmare scene of Greta like putting flowers on a grave, and Hank attacks her because her second dead husband. And then she wakes up in bed, and now she's rich because she got the $20 million, and she's, she lives in this big house and is sleeping on satin sheets, and she's got this British maid taking care of her. The maid says, while you were asleep, you got a phone call from someone saying he's your husband.
And she kind of has this like, well, wait, which husband? Because there are quite a few. Quite a few to choose from.
Yeah. And then Freddy, we cut to Freddy again, and he says, like, money is the root of all evil, and that's why I love it so much. And
he starts kissing money. He's like, he completely breaks the fourth wall with the audience, and starts kissing the money and then throws it up into the air. And then we go back to the episode, and that's when Greta decides to tell Lucy, like, oh, by the way, I had 2 husbands. The first one died. The second one just disappeared. So I figured that like marriage isn't for me, and I'm gonna be a permanent bachelorette. And and Lucy's just like, great, let me go make you some tea.
Exactly. Why are you telling me all this?
Yeah.
And she draws her a bath. And Greta's in the bathtub, and she starts like pulling tools out of the bubble bath.
Yeah, like plumbing tools. like a big wrench. Other plumbing things.
And then she ends up pulling out Hank's head. And then she wakes up, and Lucy comes in, and Lucy's like, oh, I'm so sorry, the water is so gross. And it's like this gray water with worms in it.
Yeah.
And she says, like, it must be the pipes or something.
Yeah, and so Lucy's like, I'll call a plumber. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. And then Greta is sitting in her bed, which, if she has $20 million, she shouldn't be, like, as lonely as she is, just, like, living life with her British maid. Like, she would have friends.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Even if she wasn't a nice person, like, you could only imagine, like, the friends that come out of the woodwork when you have $20 million in your back pocket. All of a sudden, everyone wants to be your friend.
And her phone, I had a phone like just like that in like late 80s, early 90s, the see-through phone.
Yeah.
Did you have one of those too?
No, I had a
Okay.
phone like Nancy Thompson in Nightmare 1. I had that kind of phone. That blue phone that she had.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
I had that
But
kind of phone.
yeah, it's like same shape but see-through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
So, Greta's just chilling by herself in her bedroom, and the phone rings, and it's a detective calling looking for Hank. And Greta's like, nope, haven't seen him. Don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you should call back tomorrow. So she
yeah.
hangs up with the detective, and she like starts freaking out, like he isn't alive. He just can't be alive, and like has a temper tantrum in the bed, and like throws the covers over her face, and like cries into her pillow about how he just can't be alive.
And she comes across pretty suspicious to the police. Like
Yeah, very much.
she does not have a good poker face.
No, no, not at all. Yeah, but with that $20 million, she could really buy like a good attorney, so I wouldn't be worried about it.
Yeah, and then the phone rings again, and it's somebody from the Springwood Savings and Loan.
Of course.
Saying that, like, just wanted to let you know your husband just withdrew $20 million, which seems weird that the full amount would still be in the bank. I mean, she must have spent some of it.
Yeah, because I don't think Lucy is working for free.
Right. And then Hank walks in and shoves her into a casket, and it's this whole nightmare sequence, and then she wakes up and calls the bank, and it turns out all her money is still there, but the guy says to her, oh, your husband called, and I'm looking forward to meeting with him next week.
Yeah, so she kind of goes into panic mode there,
and then she goes back to the easily openable grave, and only Lenny is inside. Hank's body is not there anymore.
So she immediately goes home and looks for Hank, but she sees Lucy in the bathroom, and she shows Lucy a picture of Hank, and she's like, have you ever seen this guy? And Lucy's like, no, I have no idea who he is. And she's like, you're lying. You know exactly who he is. You're working for him. And she like spazzes out on Lucy and kicks her out, and is like, you don't ever come back here again.
Yeah, poor Lucy. Like,
I know.
She gets yelled at. She has to pull worms out of the tub.
Yeah, I don't know how much she's getting paid, but I doubt it's enough.
Yeah. And then she has there's another sort of nightmare sequence where Greta wakes up in bed and Hank is next to her, and he starts chasing her around the house. She goes downstairs and back upstairs, and then when she wakes up from that, we see somebody cutting the power outside and all the lights go off.
And so she's like walking around the house, basically in pitch black, but she can kind of see, like, I don't know, maybe the moonlight's coming through the window, because she starts walking downstairs and she sees someone who looks like Hank, just like chilling up against the wall. And when she gets closer, she sees that it's just his corpse. And when she turns around, the grave digger is behind her. And he basically says, I saw two of you walk into that mausoleum, but only one of you walk out. So he went back and lifted up the coffin and saw Hank was in there as well, and put two and two together. And it wasn't until he saw her picture in the paper, probably from winning the lottery, that he realized like what she was up to. Which, do they put the lottery winner's picture in the paper? I thought they didn't do that for like privacy concerns.
I think it varies from
state to state.
Every once in a while, I buy a lottery ticket, and so just out of curiosity, you look up like when what happens if you win.
Yeah.
But yeah, it varies from state to state. In some states, you can keep your identity private, and then others, like, you have to. So it's possible that could.
I'm surprised that just isn't like common sense law in every 50 state. Like, if you win the lottery, that should not be published. Your name and your picture should not be published. Yeah. So anyway, the grave digger is like, I'm not gonna turn you in. I'm not really gonna blackmail you if you marry me. And I kind of want to be like, that's blackmail. Like,
Right.
but anyway, yeah, so he basically blackmails her into marrying him and then forcibly kisses her. And she's like, well, okay, and marries him. And as she's walking down the aisle after they're married, she just has this look of like pure regret and like she's gonna hate her life for the next forever. And then Freddy comes back on.
Yes, and Freddy catches the bouquet. Maybe that's why they picked this one for VHS, because all the Freddy scenes are adorable.
That's true. Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like a great move on the gravedigger's part, because he knows she's like willing to to kill husbands.
Yeah.
And also, like, why would you want to be married to someone who hates you? Like, it seemed like it would make more sense for him to just get the money, and then he can
yeah,
he can find a beautiful woman who wants to be with a rich guy.
That's true. Well, and I think that's what, when he saw her picture, he like immediately fell in love with her. So that is the woman that he wants to be with. So yeah, he just found a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, they're going to be miserable with their $20 million.
Right.
Yeah. How did you like this one?
I thought it was fun. I was kind of surprised because the first, because usually it's sort of split into two, and it's like a side character from the beginning shows up in becomes the focus of the second half, and this was sort of like one whole story. So because the first half I was thinking, which character is the second half going to be about?
Yeah.
But yeah. So.
Yeah, in this episode, they only had, well, I guess 4 characters if you count the gravedigger, but he was only in there for like 30 seconds, which in Freddy's Nightmares, that doesn't matter. But in altogether, there were only like 5 characters in this whole thing, in this whole episode. Yeah. So not a lot to choose from.
Did you like the episode?
I did. I liked it a lot. Going into it, I kind of had not high expectations, but I had a feeling that it was going to be one of the better ones since it had made its way to VHS. So I wasn't surprised that I liked it so much, but it was one of the better ones that we've watched so far, in my opinion.
And it had, there were a lot of like nightmare sequences of Squiggy in the in the coffin, and I thought those were done really well. Those were fun.
Thank you so much for listening. Please join us next week when we talk about Season 2, Episode 7, Silence is Golden, in which Freddy tries and fails at being a mime.